So, hi everyone, am I audible? Can anyone please confirm by typing in the chat box? Great. So, let's wait for a few more minutes so that others can join and then we'll start the session. So, hi everyone. So, let's start this today's session. So, today we will be looking into conditionals, conditional statements in C, right? And we'll be looking at how to use them to solve our programming problems. So, let's start 2025, 6, sorry, 6. Yeah. So, if you have any doubts, please type your query in the chat box at the moment you start facing the doubts, right? Yeah. So let me. I don't have any notes for today's session, so let me just check once more if I am missing something from previous session, and then we can start solving this session. Yes. So in this week, the topics that were covered was if else statements in C, and then uh, yeah, so if else statements in C, and yeah, how to if else and control condition with just with statements and C, right? And how to solve them, use them in our programs, right? So let's start. The session will be recorded, so you can access the solutions later after the session is over, right? Okay. So let me check. Yeah, most the important questions from the previous session were covered, so I don't think I need to go back. Right. Yeah. So let's start. So what is the purpose of if else statement in C? So anyone, what will be the answer? Right. To execute a block of code repeatedly? No. To declare variables and constants? No. We use type names for that. Yeah. To test the condition and execute different code based on the result? Yes. To perform mathematical calculations? No. Right. So the primary objective of if else statements is to run some section of the code conditionally, depending on some condition. So option C, let me give an example here. So let's say you want to write a program, right? Write a program that takes user age as input and prints and tells the user that they are eligible for voting, right? So the eligibility criteria is is given as is as following, right? So let's say the criteria is, I am giving the criteria. So if the users above 18 e- equal to and above 18 years of age are allowed to cast votes, else only the users above equal to and the age of 18 are allowed to cast a vote. Now let's say I want to write a C program to mimic this behavior. So basically my program should do, it should take the input, it should check if the user's age is less than 18 or not. If it's 18, they are not, just tell them that you are not allowed to vote. If age is greater than 18, then you are allowed to vote, right? So let's write a very quick if else program for this. I hope you all remember the concepts that we discussed in the previous session. So you will be familiar with the code that I'll be writing right now. Yeah. Okay. Oops. Yeah. No. Yeah. So everyone, is my terminal Windows screen visible? Yeah, right. So let me create a new file for this task. So I am in my folder NPTEL 2026, right? Now what I can do, I can simply see I have the files basic io.cpp, hello world.cpp, and a.out. I have deleted a.out now. Yeah. So now let's go back to what we saw while. Uh, so let me create a new file. So I can use the touch command here. So touch voting eligibility.cpp. So I have created a voting file named voting eligibility.cpp. So now let's open that file in a text editor, right? I'm using a new nvim right now. So I will be opening the file nvim voting eligibility.cpp. So now I have a text editor in front of me where I can write my code, right? Let me just zoom in. Yeah. So now the first thing when you start learning C, what you do, okay, sorry, the name is wrong here. MB, it has to be voting eligibility.c, right? Yeah. So the first thing when you begin learning C, what you do, you basically write a basic program that uses the standard IO library, stdio.h, standard IO header. You include it for input output, such as using the function scanf and printf, and then you write the main function. And within the main function, you end the main function by returning some number. So let's say I'm returning 0. And you can do write a program to perform some task here, right? So this is how you start with writing code in C, right? So let's now the let so through this example, what we will first like have a revision of how to write basic C program and how to do basic input and output in C, and then we will go to the if else statement, how to use if statements, right? Yeah. So let's start. So let's do uh, tell the user to enter their age, right? In the terminal. So whenever the user is compiling the C program and then they run the compiled binaries from a terminal, which is a interface, which gives an interface to the shell of the operating system. And then when you execute your binary, then you will see some output on the terminal, and you can use that terminal window as the IO interface between the program and your logic, right? So let's first tell the user that you have to enter your, let's tell the user what they have to input into the terminal. So I will be using printf statement here. So I will be writing printf and then the user message, enter your age, right? Right. So now what this statement will do, it will print the statement, enter your age string, and then change the line because I have used the escape sequence \n here, which stands for change the line, right? Now what you do, you declare an integer variable that will be storing the age of the user. So int age. So it belongs to the integer data type, right? And you basically you want to store the integer value in this variable. Now what you do, you use the scanf statement to take the input. Again, the format for scanf statement is the scanf takes in formatted string. So you have to use this double inverted commas to denote that I'm passing an string in C, and this is a formatted string. So you have to use format specifier. And since we are going to use integer input from the user, take the integer input from the user, I'll be using the format specifier %d here. And then I will be piping this input to the memory location addressed by the variable age. So I will be using the ampersand operator that will give me the memory location in the main memory where the variable age is storing its integer value. So I will just pass ampersand age, right? So now what we have done, we have successfully wrote the C code that will tell the user to enter their age in the terminal. And then I have created a box in the memory, a block in the memory where that age value will be stored. And that block is will be storing the exact number of bytes as an integer byte, right? And then what I have done, I have used the scanf command to basically take the input from the terminal and pass that input to that memory block in the main memory using the scanf state, right? So this ampersand here gives you the memory location at which the variable age will be storing values. Now this part is done. I can also again print end my program by telling the user your age is %d, again formatted strings, right? And then change the line, and then I can pass in age here. So now if I run this, save this program, and then run this, right? Let's run this program. So GCC, again, I will be using the GCC compiler. So GCC and then voting eligibility.c. So you will see after you run this compiler over this code source code file, you will see when you do ls in your present directory, you will see a new file will be created with the name a.out, right? So this is the compiled binary that you can use to run the program. So what you do now, you simply run the way how do you run this compile binary, you use dot front slash and then the compiled file, so which is a.out, and you can see my terminal window is telling that enter your age, right? And then there is a line change and the cursor is stuck here, nothing is proceeding. So now what I need to do, I need to pass some integer value. So let's say I am 28 years of age, so I'll be entering 28 here, right? You can see after getting the input, the program proceeded and it prints that your age is 28. Right, everyone? So this was basic input output in C. This is what we saw in the previous session also. So we are resuming from there. Now in this basic input output program, I will add the logic to check if the user is eligible to vote or not, right? So what is the logic? So the logic is in plain English, if we want to say the logic is if age is greater than if age is greater than 17, then the user is no greater than 18, right? Greater than or equal to 18, then the user is allowed to vote, right? So this is the logic in plain English, right? You get this, right, everyone? So now let's say someone comes to you and they are asking you to write a program that will help that you can give to them, and they will what they have to do is they simply have to pass the user's age in this program, and the program will tell if the user is allowed to vote or not. Then how will you write that logic in this C program and pass the binary to that user, right? So how to write this logic in C? So you will use condition checker, right? Which is if statement here. statement in C. So let's see what is the how to use this statement, right? So the syntax is you use the keyword token if, right? If, and then small starting bracket, and then close that bracket, right? And then you use the curly braces to define the scope of that if statement. And within this if statement, you have to pass some condition here. So what is the condition here? The condition has to be age. What is the condition on age? So let's say check if, so I what I want to do here is check if the age is greater than 18. So what should I write here? Anyone? If age, then what should be the condition here? Anyone? Can you answer this? What should be the condition here? Right. So yeah, exactly right. So you need the conditional operators in C, right? So you need the greater than check. So if age is greater than and equals to greater than or equals to, this stands for greater than or equals to then 18. So this what it will do, then anything inside this, if age is greater than or equals to 18, whatever you write within this curly braces, right, within this curly braces, that will be executed by the program, right? So if age is less than 18, then it won't be executed, right? So what we have to tell the user, if the age is greater than 18, so you are eligible to vote, cast vote, right? Right. Now, uh right now this statement will be executed. So let's compile this program and see the output here, right? So now we have successfully used a if statement in C. So let's see how it works. So GCC voting eligibility dot cc C, right? Dot front slash a dot out, right? So now let's say my age is 28. It says your age is 28 and you are eligible to cast a vote, right? So the program is able to tell me that I am able to cast a vote. Now let's say if I say my age is 6 years of age, then it is only printing your age is 6. So the block within that if statement is not getting executed if I enter my age as 6, which is less than 18, right? So here we can successfully see the use case of if statement. If the age is greater than 18, then only you are eligible to cast a vote, right? So this printf statement is getting executed if and only if the condition in this if block is true, right? Passed to the condition passed to this if statement is true, then only the code inside the block is executed, right? Now we already saw that there was no message to someone who is less than 18 years of age. Let's give a message to them also. So if age is less than 18, you can tell the user that printf printf you are not eligible to cast out, right? So if the age is less than 18, you are not eligible to cast a vote, right? So now this block will only be executed if the age is less than 18, right? So again, this is another if statement. Now let's go back and compile everything. So now let's see if I'm saying my age is 28. It says you are eligible to cast a vote. Now everyone who is less than 18 years of age will also get a prompt. So let's say I'm saying I'm 6 years of age. It is saying you are not eligible to cast a vote. Right. So in this way, you can use multiple if statements in a same C program, right? So why when if statements are required, they are required to execute a specific section of code based on some condition, right? And that condition can be formed using conditional operators. right? Anyone, any doubts? Someone is asking, is it mandatory to use curly braces if there is only one statement? No. So yeah, this is a feature of C. So whenever you have to write a program and if you want to include something inside the condition blocks like if else statement, then it's not mandatory to use curly brackets if there is only one code statement inside that block, right? So I hope this is clear, right? Everyone, do you have any doubts? Should we proceed to the next problem? So if you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. Yeah, so let's proceed to the next problem. Yeah. Yeah. So what is the correct syntax for an if else statement in C? Right? We already saw how to write if statement. Now we have to check if else statement, right? Right. So if condition, so anyone, do you have the answer for this? Yeah, option C is the correct answer, right? So how to use if else now? So earlier in the previous problem, we saw that we were using if statements. Now here we are seeing how to use if else. Yeah. So let me give you an example how it works. So if else statement goes like this. So if you write if, then your condition here, right? Now you open your if block and then you execute statements. So code section to execute if the condition is true, right? Right. And then you can write your else part. So you can always use if else whole struct here in C. In the else part, you can write code section to execute if the condition is false. Now, when this is useful? This is useful if your condition splits the domain into disjoint sets, right? So, for example, your input was age, and your condition is age if age is the age greater than or equals to 18. So here you have two disjoint sets. One is the age less than 18, and second one is the age greater than equals to 18. Now these are two different disjoint sets, so you don't need two different if statements. You can simply use if else statements, right? So so the correct syntax is if and then small brackets. Inside the small bracket, you write the condition, and after that, your code section that needs to be executed if the condition is true. Otherwise, then there's the else part that under which you write the code section to execute if the condition is false, right? So let's say in the previous program, so again, you need to note that this the code section you are there are two sections here that needs to be executed. So this struct is only useful when your condition is dividing the input space into disjoint sets, right? So for example, is the age greater than equals to 18 or not? So let's say if you had some condition like if age is greater than 18, or the person is or the person's height is greater than 172, then he or she is eligible to vote. Otherwise, they are not eligible to vote, right? So in that sense, then they are eligible to vote. So the condition is if age is greater than 18 or the height is greater than 172, then they are eligible to vote. Otherwise, they are not able to eligible to vote, right? So in that sense, also you can divide the domain. But yeah, let's say first let me give you code for this, and then we will see a case where you cannot use if else statement directly, right? So let me do one thing. Stop sharing. Right. So let me open my eligibility code here, right? And we voting eligibility.c. Now you can see there are two sets. One set is age is greater than equals to 18. The second set is age is less than 18, right? So here you can see we used two if statements with two conditions, two condition blocks, right? We can replace this if double if statement with one single condition block. So we can simply write else here, right? So s. So you can write else, right? So if age is greater than 18, then you are eligible to cast a vote. Else, so this means the other part, you are not eligible to cast a vote. Simple, right? You don't need two conditions here. You can use if else struct here. And the most beautiful thing is uh you can have ladders of else, if else, right? Again, if and then else. So you can always have this kind of struct. You can create a ladder of if else, right? So yeah, this is an example that uses if else statement. The correct syntax is if small bracket, and in that bracket you have a conditional statement. If that condition is true, you have to give a code that needs to be executed. Otherwise, the code segment that is present in the else part will be executed, right? So this is how your program works, right? Now, one question is when we cannot use this if else statement, when we will be using if only. So let's say you are saying ki, uh, yeah. So let's say if I want to write it like this, so the condition is if the user is greater than 18, then they can vote. Also, the user age is between 16 to 19, then maybe 16 to so then they can be allowed to cast a vote given that they possess a valid Aadhaar card, right? So Aadhaar card. So let's put it like this. So a user only, whose age is greater than 18, then only they can cast a vote. Otherwise, also if the user age is between 16 and 19, then they can cast a vote if and only if they possess a valid Aadhaar card, right? So you can't simply say that if age is greater than 18, cast allowed, right? So you say allowed here. else not allowed, right? So you cannot simply use this kind of struct. This is wrong. So in this case, you need some complex if else, nested if else logic here, right? Fine. So any doubts in this? Okay, so I think there are no doubts. So let's move on to the next problem. So what happens if there is no else part in an if else statement? Anyone? So essentially we saw this problem, right? When we were writing our program, we saw the same case, same scenario, right? What happens if there is no else part in the if else statement? Which essentially means there is a part like this, if some condition, then do something, and that's it. There is no else part. The program will not compile. No. Is valid. It will crash at runtime. No. No. Right? The condition is true, then nothing happens. If the condition is false, the program crashes. Again, no. Right? If the condition is true, then program executes the code inside the if block. If the condition is false, nothing happens. Right? This is true. Right? So the correct answer is option D is correct, right? Anyone, do you have any doubts on this? So we already saw this case when I was writing the program for printing telling the user if the user is eligible to vote or not, right? Any doubts on this problem? Right. So so the next question is, if multiple conditions are used in single if statement, then testing of those conditions are done. So first option is left to right, then right to left, then left to right, then randomly, and then none of them, right? So let me give you an example, and then we will solve this problem. Right. So let's say if I have this kind of statement, if condition one and condition two, right? Then you execute this. So I'm saying that, and let's say I'm telling you that condition condition one is false. Then should the program check if condition two is true or not? Anyone? If condition is false in this kind of conditional statement, then should the program check if the condition two is true or not? Anyone? Right, it shouldn't check, right? But let's say if it was or here, then you needed to check, right? So essentially, what if does is it tries to find the minimum number of evaluations to find whether the condition is true or not, and the single logic is so the single logic is basically it uses left to right evaluation, but it's not very much restrictive in that sense. It tries to follow the left to right pattern, but it exits early. But if it finds that the condition is false, will be always be false if the first condition is false, right? So it essentially checks from left to right. Any doubts in this? True. Sorry. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, so I think I'm receiving some messages. So yeah, so if you have only conditional statements, then it checks from left to right. Now, if you have some arithmetic operators, right, arithmetic operations, then it will execute the arithmetic operations one. Someone is asking this question, right? Sorry, guys. I'll be back in a minute. Yeah, sorry guys. So I was not feeling very well. So let's resume. So yeah, there are multiple questions in this, multiple doubts from you guys. Like, what happens if there are arithmetic operators and other things? Then what happens? So basically, what it does is the C compiler tries to check the condition from left to right, and if there are some arithmetic expressions, then the arithmetic expressions are evaluated first, right? So whatever is written in the inside, so let's say if I'm writing if true and some some arithmetic evaluation, like let's say I am saying 5, right? True and 5 plus 5 minus 5, right? So what it will do, it will first check this statement, resolve this expression, so it will become if true and 0, and then it will start to check from left to right, right? So this is how it will evaluate the program, right? Any doubts in this again? So yeah, so I will be covering the questions remaining in the towards the end of the session, right? So yeah. Mm. Right. So yeah. So let's move on to the next question. Right. What will the value of ABC after the execution of following code segment? So let's see. Ah, let's modify this a bit. Right. So now we want to evaluate this segment, this code segment, and we want to see what will be stored in the variable C here, right? So for this, first we need to figure out. So for this kind of operations, what we need to do, we need to figure out all the operators and the operands present in this statement, and then it will evaluate the uh, we can evaluate, right? So the operators we have are let's gather all the operators that are present in this expression. So multiplied by and equals to, then the postfix increment, right? Postfix, then division operator, and then prefix subtraction, right? Right. So now we have to identify what is the precedence order for evaluating these operators in order to get the correct output, right? So let's go to let me pick up give you the correct order from the C reference, right? C operator precedence table. So share this tab. Yeah. So let's start finding out what is the sequence of what is the precedence that we have to follow. So first we have to solve any postfix increment and decrement operations, right? And the associativity is left to right. So basically, if these operators come in the same line, you have to evaluate the leftmost first, right? Then we have postfix increment and prefix decrement. So postfix and prefix have the highest preference. Among them, the postfix one has the highest one, right? So so let me write out the preference operator precedence here, right? Operator precedence, right? So in the first level, you have increment postfix. Then at the second layer, you have decrement fix, right? Decrement post prefix, right? Then on the third level, we have division operator. And the last one is multiply by equals to, right? You can see then the division comes at third level, right? And equals to comes at next one is here, and then one is so let's go back to the problem. And now you can see I have defined precedence, the order in which these operations have to be executed from left to right. In let's now this problem. This and type on the chat box. Yeah, so this problem, right? So statement was equals to int e is equals to 5, comma equals to 7, and c is equals to 111, and multiply is equals to a plus plus divided by minus minus b, right? Now we want to see the output, right? So how you solve this problem? First, then this postfix increment, then division, and then prefix decrement, right? Then we write the precedence table, right? Then order. So the first precedence is given to postfix increment, right? Postfix increment. Then the second order is given to prefix decrement, fix decrement, right? And the third one is division, and the fourth one is multiply by equals to, right? So this is a assignment operator, right? So let's start solving. So let's pick out the first operator that we need to evaluate. So it's postfix increment, right? So it says, so what you need to do? You need to evaluate this part. So it becomes a plus plus, right? What is the what this expression evaluates to? So it evaluates to the value of a at the current line, and then increment it by 1 in the next line. So a evaluates to 5 here, right? So you can see a was 5 here. So you simply gets 8 as 5 here. And from the next line onwards, a will become 6. right? A becomes 6 here. So let me write a table here to track these variables. So A, B, and C. So A was 5, right? B was 7, and C is 111. After this evaluation, A becomes 6, right? But this evaluates to 5. So now our expression becomes C multiply is equals to A plus plus becomes 5 here, right? Divided by minus B, right? Now again in this table we need to in this we have to solve the choose the operator with the next highest precedence, right? Which is minus B. So let's take out this operation here and evaluate it. It says minus B here, right? Now what this evaluates to, it evaluates to what this evaluates to, it evaluates to. So decrement the value of B by 1 and then use it in this line. So B becomes 6 here, right? So B becomes 6 here, 6 here. So minus B basically evaluates to 6 here, right? So is this clear, everyone? So now our expression becomes C multiply is equals to 5 divided by 6. Anyone, do you have any doubts till here? Right. So, right. So now let's do go to the next step. So in this again in this expression we have two operators, multiply by equals to and the division, and again we saw that the division has a better higher precedence, so we need to evaluate this division operator. And just mind that this is an integer division in C, right? So integer division in C. So what 5 by 6 becomes? So it this integer division operators, all right? So this is integer division operator. So what it returns? It returns the quotient. It returns quotient of division. Right? We already saw these operators. So for integer division, it returns the quotient. And when you divide 5 by 6, the quotient is anyone? Right? So it returns 0. So the evaluation of this part is basically this evaluates to 0. Now, now the solution is very clear here. So it says C multiply is equals to 0. Now you have to simply evaluate this expression, and this expression expands to C is equals to C multiplied by 0. It happens in place, and what happens in the memory, that will be something that we will see in future. But for now, just assume that this eval expands to this expression, and then this becomes C was 111, so it becomes 111 into 0, which is C, right? So C evaluates to 0 in the next line. Anyone, do you have any doubts in this evaluation schema? Someone is asking today is the last day for NPTEL. Why? I'm not sure. Like I have no such instructions. So right. So we saw this output. So A becomes 6, B becomes 6, and C becomes 0. Right. Right, everyone? So the correct answer is C becomes 0. So correct answer here is option C. A is equals to 6, B equals to 6, and C becomes 0, right? Yeah. Any doubts in this? Great. So I hope you will be able to solve these kind of problems, right? So understanding how to evaluate expressions is very important thing in writing programs, right? So yeah. So let's take on the next problem. Yeah. So what will be the output of this program? So I hope you all have seen the this switch case statements, right? You have seen the lectures on switch case statements, right? Okay. So let me give you a brief, a small code to explain switch case statements. Switch case dot C, right? Right. So again, as we are trying to understand C, we will be using the standard IO and then main function and end the main function by returning a integer output, an integer return value. Return one and do something here, right? So what are switch case statements, right? So now we are seeing switch case statements. So these are another way of writing conditional jumps in C, right? So the syntax goes like this. So you switch to some expression, right? Some expression that can be evaluated. And within the switch block, then you can, depending upon the expression, the value will be checked. So let's say jump. So let's say if case value one, right? Value one, then something will be done. Case value two, then something will be done. Case value three, then something will be done. And then there is this default case, right? So if none of the values cases matches this value, then this thing will happen, right? This block will be executed, right? So what this expression can be? So let's say I'm saying my expression is an integer variable. So I will say int expression equals to 10, right? Right. Now I'm saying if case, the case is if expression is what values it contain. Let's say if I am dealing with integer expression, so I'm saying if case is 0, then you have to do something. If the case is 5, you have to do something. If case is 10, do something. Else the default case has to be executed, right? Right. So this is the syntax of switch case statements in C, right? So you switch to some expression that can be evaluated and return some output, right? So, right. So this switch expression can take the value of an integer here, right? So the allowed ones are integers and enumerations, and see, we will see what are enumeration in future. But for now, just assume that expression allows integer values. You can always use booleans here, and then the booleans will be typecasted to integers automatically, right? So now what it does, it switches to some expression and then directly jumps to the case, the value of the expression if it's present in multiple case statements. If the values are not present, then it jumps to the default case. And if the default case is also not there and the case for that value is not defined, then error is thrown, right? So for example, it says that if express switch to expression 10, so expression value is 10 here. So it jumps to the 10th case block and it does something here, right? Do something. So let's do here. So, oh, sorry. So simply let's print the value of expression is 0, right? Let's give this kind of statements to help the user understand what the switch case is doing here, right? So the value is 5 if this case is true, right? The value is 10 if case 10 is true. And in the default case, we can say uh, the value of expression is not 0 or 5 or 10, right? So default case says the value of the expression is not 0, 5 or 10, right? So this is our switch case example here. So now let's compile our program. So switch case.c and then run it. You can see it prints what we expected by our switch case program, that it would print the value of expression is, oh, sorry. The value of expression is not 0 or 5 or 10, right? So let me open my code here and then, yeah. So what happens when we switch to the expression, right? So if the value of expression is uh, 0, then print 0. If the value of key expression is 5, then print the value of expression is 5. If the value of expression is 10, just print that the value of expression is 10. If none of these cases are true, then print the default, which says the value of expression is not 0 or 5 or 10, right? But when you run this program, you see it is printing two lines here, right? It is first printing the value of expression is 10, and then is also printing the statement inside the default case, which says the value of expression is not 0 or 5 or 10. So let's see what happens if I set my expression to 0 here, right? So let's expression to 0 here, and then again compile my program and then execute it. You can see it's printing all the expressions, all the lines present in all the cases. Can anyone tell me why this is happening? I mean, this is very crucial to understand the use case of switch case statements. Yeah, right. So, yeah, Swaraj, you are right. You are saying that the break statement is not used. So, what happens? How switch case expressions are evaluated? So, first, the switch statement evaluates the expression value, right? So then the case which matches this expression value is executed. And after that, no checking is happening. So after you have a check that the case 0 is true, everything from the block of this case statement will be executed. So everything present in the future cases is also getting executed. That the value of expression is 0, is 5, is 10, and the default one also. That it's not 0 or 5 or 10, right? So thus we need break statements in every case of this switch case statements, right? So you enter add break here. So what are break statements? Break statements are used to exit from this kind of control flow of programs, right? So break, what it does here is if the case is 0, simply print up this expression, this line, and then exit from this switch case program, a construct, right? That's it. So that's why breaks are always necessary in C switch case statements. Now you can see it is correctly printing only that the value of expression is 0. Now let's say if I set my expression to 110, Let's see what happens. The default case should execute. So, right. So it says the value of expression neither 0 nor 5 nor 10, right? Is this clear, everyone? So this behavior is also called fall through. Basically, what happens is as soon as the first match is occurred, everything below that case will start getting executed. So it doesn't matter if you put break for default or not because default comes at the last. But for the other cases, you need to have a break statements if you want to prevent end the execution there only. Anyone, do you have any doubts? Right. So this is how you use switch case statements in C. So let's move on to the next problem. Right. So let's evaluate this problem, right? So int x equals to 1 and then you are switching to x. So whatever case contains the value 1 will be printed. So it prints statement 1, printf, choice is 1, backslash n, and then choice is other than 1. So both gets executed because there is no break statement here, right? Is the answer clear, everyone? Great. So the correct answer is option C. Right. Any doubts? Right. So these were the questions that I had. Now I'll be writing few programming, solving few programming problems, and then you can raise your doubts if you have, right? So any doubt till this problem? Now we'll be writing actual C program. So any doubts till this problem? Someone is asking about NPTEL form last date. I'm not sure what that form is, and I'm not sure. I don't know anything related to NPTEL logistics. So basically, you can ask the NPTEL team for these questions, right? For clarifications on these questions. I'm not sure about the exam registration for NPTEL. So someone is asking which ID I'm using. It's you can use any text editor. For me, I'm using NeoVim. You can look it on the internet, right? right? So let me solve the problem 7 then, right? Now we'll be writing actual C program. So let's say you are given a task of determining the grade of a student at your college based on their score, right? If the marks are greater than 90, then the grade A grade has to be allocated. If the score is between 80 and 90, then check if it is above 85. If it is above 85, then A minus, else you have to give B plus, right? Below 80, if it is above 70, then it's a C, otherwise it's a D, right? So let's use if else statements to write this program, right? So for this, first we need to determine the split in the values, right? We need to find the disjoint sets where we can apply if else conditions here, right? So let's create this table. Yeah. So if the marks are greater than 90, then grade A. If greater than 85 and less than equals to 90, right? Then grade is A minus. If marks are yeah, so if marks are greater than equals to 80, yeah, marks are greater than 80 and less than equals to 85, right? Then the grade has to be B plus. Then the condition is if marks are greater than 70 and less than equals to 80, then it has to be C. And if marks are less than equals to 70, then you have to give a D grade, right? Right. So this is the table that we'll be using, right? Right. So this is the table that we'll be using, and we can use if else statements to write this code, right? So it's a very straightforward problem now. So now we can start writing this in C. So let's grading.c. Now again, the basic struct should be there. So std standard IO should be here so that you can then do the IO. The 90 main. Right. So within the main function, I can write my program, return 0 and write logically, right? So now what I will do, I will declare an integer value int, yeah, and then store marks in this variable, right? So we since marks can be real numbers, so you don't need to use integer data type here. We can use floating point values here, so, right? So float marks, right? So let's say I assign the marks as 10. Let's say someone achieves 90 marks, right? So 90.0. Now I have to write the table logic that we saw, right? So the condition was if marks are greater than 90, let's uh let's use let's simply print if marks are greater than 90, just print a formatted string, you print grade A, right? right? So if marks are greater than 90, you have to print grade A. And else if marks are greater than 85 and marks are less than equals to 90, then you have to print grade A minus, right? Right. Else if marks greater than greater than 80 and marks less than 85, the student has scored a grade B plus, right? Else if marks are greater than 70 and marks are less than 80, less than equals to 80, then the student has scored a grade B, right? Backslash N. Else, if the marks are less than 70, then the grades are you achieve grade D, grade C, and then grade D, grade D. Right. So this is the grading scheme that I have coded using if else statements in C, right? Now, what we will do, we will go ahead and compile our program and let's see if it works, right? So again, in my folder where the code file is present, my code file is present in grading.c. So I will use GCC compiler, GCC, then grading.c, and you will see it will create a file named a.out here. Now what we will do, we will run this a.out file. And we know that the marks that we have given to the student are 90, so the student should get A minus grade, right? So you can see it prints grade A minus, right? We can also make this a bit interactive. So what I can do is I can use scanf here, tell the user, enter your marks, right? And then scanf, you use percentage F here for float format specifier and parse the address to the marks variable here, right? Again, you go back, you compile your program, grading.c, and then when you run this program, it says enter your marks. So let's say I'm saying my mark, I have scored 91 marks, so it prints grade A. Now let's say again I run the program, I tell my marks are 50, I'm getting a grade D, right? Let's say if my marks are 86, I'm getting grade A minus, right? So this is how this program works. So anyone, do you have any doubts in this problem? So if you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. So yeah, everyone. So someone is telling that my teacher is telling us to not to use int main as we are not returning any output. So yeah, it's very valid. You can use void main also here. But some compilers might give warnings here. Yeah, it also works, right? You can use void main also. But it's completely operating system and compiler dependent. Don't just think that this is you have to learn to write void main or int main here. There are various reasons why I was using int main here, and there are various reasons where you can use void main too, right? So just assume for now, since you haven't done a operating system course, yeah, and you don't know how processes works, you just assume that you can use int main here, right? Yeah. Yeah. So So let's move on to the next question. So write a C program to print the day of a week using switch case, right? Right. So now this was one problem that used if else statement. Now I'll be solving a problem that uses switch case statement, right? So write a C program to print the day of week using switch case, right? So the user enters a number. So let's say what is the first day of a week? It should print Monday. What is the second day? It should print Tuesday, and so on, right? Sorry. Hmm. Yeah. So let's solve this problem, everyone. Again, I will open up my ID and start typing the code. Right. So let me create a file, day of the week.c, and let's open this. Right. Again, I will hashtag include io stdio.h, right, int main, and then mg. Right. So let's try to solve this problem. So program that prints the day of the week based on the number, right? So, for example, first day is Monday, second day is Tuesday, third day is Wednesday, okay, fourth day is Thursday, fifth day is Friday, sixth day is Saturday, and the seventh day is Sunday, right? So, very basic problem, not a big task, right? Again, int day, and let's ask the user to give an input. So let's give a prompt, enter the day, week between 0 and 7, right? Now let's use the scanf statement, pass the format specifier that it's an integer, and pass the value to the memory address of the day, right? Right. Now the variable day contains the day of the week. Now what I need to do, switch to the day variable, right? Switch to the expression day and define the cases, right? Case one, what you have to do? You have to print day of the week is Monday, right? And then break. Break is single most important statement here, right? The first, let me give more details. The first day of the week is Monday, right? So this was case one. Let's write the case two here. Case two. Let's write second week is right. Then case three is Wednesday, right? Then case four, right? So day is Thursday, right? The fifth day is Friday. The sixth day is Saturday. And the seventh day is Sunday, right? Okay. So I've written a big switch case block. Now I also need to give the default case. Let's say if the user enters something other than these days. So let's tell them printf, please enter a value between 0 and sorry, 1 and 7. Right. Now this program acts as a map between day number and the day of the week. Right. Let's compile this program. Then run the program. So now the program is asking me to enter the day. So let's say I want to know what is the first day. So first day is Monday. What is the sixth day? It's Saturday. What is the 11th day? Please enter the value between 1 and 7, right? So our initial prompt was wrong. It has to be a valid day of the week between 1 and 7, right? Not 0 and 7, right? Now the prompt is also correct. So the second day is Tuesday and so on. So yeah. Any doubts here, anyone in this program? Anyone, do you have any doubts in this switch case example? Right. So if you don't have any doubts, yeah, so these were the programs that I was going to cover for this session. So if you have any doubts, please type in the chat box, right? Right. If you have any doubts, then type in the chat box. There are some other practice problems that you can practice on your own, right? I hope these problems help you to understand the basics of this if else statements and structs, switch cases. Yeah, someone has a doubt in the question number one and question number two. So let's get back to question number one. So what is the purpose of if else statement in C? So the first option is to execute a block of code repeatedly. No. To declare variables and constants. No. To test a condition and execute different code based on the result. Yes. So this is the correct use case of if else statement. And to perform mathematical calculations. No. So the correct option is option C. Right. Is this clear, Rakib? We already saw multiple if programs that uses if. Is this clear? Right. Question number two says, what is the correct sentence of an if-else statement in C? So again, we wrote multiple code and we saw that the first, this is wrong. So condition has to be in the small brackets. Again, option B is wrong. If condition, if then is not the C, standard C token, right? Construct. Then option C, if in bracket you have some condition and then if that is true, then you have a code block inside the curly brackets that contains a statement followed by terminator. That's true. If the condition is false, then there is an else block here and the everything in an else statement. So option C is correct, right? In is it clear, Rakib? Ah, so Deepika is asking problem Nate, what is the doubt? There is some doubt in compiling the program. What is the doubt in compilation? Can you just elaborate a bit more on the doubt? Uh, Deepika, can you explain a bit more on, can you tell me what is the doubt that you are facing, that you have for question number 8? Okay, someone is asking for question 3 also. Till then, let's take question number 3 here. Yeah. So what happens if there is no else part in the if else statement? Nothing happens. It's completely valid statement. So basically, if there is no else part in the if else statement, then what happens? The block which is present in the if statement gets executed if and only if the condition is true. If the condition is not true, then that block gets skipped, but everything else executes in the specified order itself, right? So for example, I am saying if some condition and then some code block here, right? And then some statement here, went here, right? So if the condition is true, then statement inside if will be executed, and then some statement will be executed, right? So let's call it printf one here, right? Exclamation, and then printf two here, right? So what will happen if the condition is true? The outputs will be 1, then 2. If the condition is not true, then the output will be 2 simply, right? So there will be no bugs in the program, right? Is this clear, everyone? So any other doubts, everyone? Please type your doubts in the chat box. Yeah, so someone is asking, you need a brief explanation on how to break the statements and in each and every switch case, right? Right. So you can see this program, right? So your doubt is why are we needing break statement here? Is this the question? So let me just explain the behavior of switch case. So whenever you pass an expression to the switch statement, it compares that value for exact match to the for the cases written for that switch block. Now let's say if it matches case 2 here, right? Then what happens? Then all the lines that contain case statements are ignored and everything else is executed until the end of the switch block, right? So let's say if case 2 is true here, then this line is printed, right? But then if there is, let's say there was no break statement here, then what would happen? Then this line would also get printed, right? This line would also get printed. And then if there was no break again here, then this entire line will be executed. If there is no break here, then entire line will be executed, right? So that's why we need, oh, sorry. So yeah. So if there is no break statement, right? There is no break, no break, no break here, then no break, right? Right. So this causes fall through. So let's say case true is true, then all the lines in present, all the cases below case two will get executed. That's why you need the break statement after in each case, right? Is this clear? Great. So we can end the session if anyone, no one has any doubts. Otherwise, please type your doubts in the chat box.